Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a closer look at the Gotham Central Omnibus. This is by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka. It does say Michael Lark on here as the next sort of biggest name for art, but to be honest with you guys, he only does about 50% or less of the art in the book overall, so I don't know if he deserves the credit as the main artist. I don't know, that's a bit kind of up in the air. The art itself is quite kind of minimalistic, kind of noir in some ways. It has little hints of how it feels when you're looking at something like 100 Bullets or something, where it's not quite as heavily detailed, but it's because there's a lot of quick kind of panels and kind of stuff going through. So let's have a closer look at the book itself, and then we can come back and discuss what my thoughts were, how the kind of format of the two kind of writers kind of worked, and if there's any sort of key things that I would sort of, I guess, point out or want to mention for sort of you guys. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to note that my omnibus seems to be reasonably thin on this overall kind of edge. When I've seen some other people's on their shelves, it seems to be a lot thicker, so I don't know if there's been various print runs where the book was printed on much thicker kind of paper. The paper in this seems to be a quite thin, glossy kind of paper, so as if it was a thicker kind of newsprint before, maybe that's why it was bigger. But I just want to notice this is the second print, and it does seem to be a little bit thinner from what I've seen, although I could be wrong. Someone need to correct me on that if they've got the first print. On the front of the dust jacket, we've got some of the Gotham Central Police Force, Gotham Central, and our creators. On the spine, we have pretty much the same, but none art. And then on the back here, we have Batman with a sort of synopsis in there overall, and this says $99.99 US and $130.99 Canadian. I want to say I picked it up for around £45 second hand. If we take the dust jacket off, it's a fairly plain cover overall, just a kind of black card with the indented Gotham Central, and then the same on the spine as was kind of printed on it, and then nothing on the back there. It does have this curved kind of softer spine that some of is more kind of akin to a Marvel book, I guess, and it means that you have this slight curve at the edge of your block. But books like that tend to have really good overall binding, so it lifts up really well and creates a really nice eye. This may look plain back, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but this is supposed to be sort of the Gotham sort of landscape. So we've got contents here, and it breaks down who wrote what sections and who drew which sections. I find, as I say, my book lay out really well. I mean, even right from the start there, you know, first couple of pages, no issues with kind of laying the book out. And despite the various artists, the simple kind of style they went for, things were quite consistent throughout, and I didn't really find too many issues following who is who, other than maybe the occasional sort of blonde cop or something where they weren't as defined a character. As you can see though, it's really well bound overall, no issues sort of using or reading the book at all. Let's skip towards the back and look at any extras. So there's not a lot in the back here, which is my kind of personal kind of preference. I much prefer there to be more story in the book and less extras. But there's a little bit here just around some of the characters' kind of creation, which is quite cool. And then a little bit about our various creators. I've read Gotham Central, I want to say, at least 2 or 3 times at this point. I've probably read almost everything apart from Daredevil by Ed Brubaker, and I also enjoy, as I say, Greg Rucka's writing overall. This book is a little bit different to a lot of their other works, where it's somewhat kind of self-created, because they had to kind of create the overall kind of characters in the police force and the different shifts and things like that, and add a lot of things that we didn't know about before. But it's not a creator-owned property, it is DC. So it's kind of like, I want to say it's Incognito or something, where it's kind of like owned by them, not by him. I forget if it's Incognito or one of the other ones. It focuses on the police, and we have a day and night shift, one of which is written by Ed Brubaker and one of which is written by Greg Rucka, and they both kind of play with their own set of characters a little bit, but sometimes they'll kind of cross over into other shifts or kind of support things. One thing that I wanted to note early on in this is that a lot of people have noted that there's not much Batman in this book, and something that I've mentioned to quite a few people is that although Batman isn't prominent on, every other page, he is a key focus of the book, and almost all of the cases come down to some sort of Bat villain or Bat story as to why things are the way they are and how things kind of went down. And a lot of the time we don't see Batman for any period of time because they'll investigate the entire case, and then when we get to the end of the case, or as far as they can get, they'll be like, oh, it's one of those freaks, Dr. Freeze, we'll need to get Batman, and they'll hand it over to him. And then we don't see what Batman did because it's their story, right? They don't get to see Batman. So it's interesting to see that other kind of, I guess, perspective on what Batman does. From the police side of things, it's a matter of pride for them that they want to do as much as they can. I mean, they realise that they need Batman and that he fulfills a gap that they maybe can't cross certain lines, but they do want to be the fallback, to be the main support of their kind of city, and they take a great pride in kind of doing that. There's a lot of kind of jesting back and forth by the different kind of police as to who's better than each other and how many cases they've managed to close down and things, and I think that's really fun. There are a couple of arcs where when you jump out of one story into the next, because it's jumping from one shift to another, it feels a little bit disjointed and you don't always kind of get all the threads from one story into the kind of next one. So that can be a little bit off-putting at kind of times. As I mentioned kind of earlier, the art is not really consistently one artist. It doesn't mean that it gets like particularly bad, but it's not particularly good either. It's just kind of a consistent, it's okay, all the kind of way through. But I think that's part of the feel of the book as well. I mean, you don't want to have this really shiny, bright superhero kind of look to a book that's supposed to be about everyday kind of cops. So it feels more to me like something like 100 Bullets or Why the Last Man or something like that. But even just dulled down more than that, where it's trying to be a real life person kind of story, and I think the art somewhat emphasizes that. There are a few larger overpinning stories of characters in the police force themselves, Rennie Montoya being one of those. I don't really want to mention any key things because in a way this is her story, and you really need to just kind of read that and kind of take it for what it is. I would say that I feel personally towards the tail end of the book, not necessarily the ending, but the tail end of the book, it wasn't really easy to follow what her thoughts were at any point in time. One minute she seemed totally fine, the next minute she seemed sort of like totally crazy and angry, and it didn't really consistently add up for me. But as I say, that's just maybe my kind of thoughts. I think also the smaller the chunks you read this book in, the easier it's going to be to digest, and those gaps won't be such a big deal. So if you were to read each kind of 4 or 5 issue arc of a crime and then take a sort of day out and come back to it, it makes it easier just to kind of take each crime at a time, even though the story is kind of overarching of the overall kind of thing. As far as I understand, Ed Brubaker and some of the other guys dropped off towards the end, so the tail end of the book is mostly by Rucka, but I could be wrong there. And as I say, it's just a really interesting cop crime kind of drama, but based in Gotham. And unlike Gotham, the sort of TV show, it's not done from Bruce's perspective. As I say, it's done from the police kind of perspective. And as I say, they kind of really opened up and started doing different things and creating new characters. Although we do get cameos from somebody like, say, sort of Gordon. He's not the focus and he's not the commissioner kind of in this. So that's interesting to kind of see as well. One last thing I'd want to mention is that I don't think this lines up specifically with any canon of the other kind of comics. So it is kind of its own side Elseworld story, although as I say, you do have Rennie Montoya's story running through this, which I believe is canon. I don't think this lines up specifically with any other Batman books. Again, I could be wrong. Let me know below if there is anything that I should be reading along kind of side this, but I don't believe there is, or at least I haven't read a Batman book that has these police in it. So maybe that's kind of me. Another couple of things, I guess, just sort of towards the end of the book, where there's a few kind of Americanisms in there where they'll kind of make references to different things, and I maybe didn't grasp them straight away, and they don't really kind of star and explain it at the bottom. They just kind of expect everyone to understand it because it's a standard American thing. So there was a couple of things that threw me from there that I had to look up, but that's nothing new. As I say, I do that for any book if I'm not quite sure what something's referencing or something kind of like that. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed this closer look overall, and if you've made it this far through the video, thanks for watching. As always, subscribe and comment below to let me know what you think of this book, if you're planning on picking it up yourself, or if you've read it already in sort of some other format. Let me know what your kind of thoughts are. I'd love to know, as I say, if you guys just sort of picked this up as say by itself, or if you're big kind of Brubaker or Rucka fans as well, how you kind of got there would be interesting to kind of hear. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.